Hello, ladies. I'm really excited to pop on this evening and talk a little bit more about the connection between your hormones and your anxiety. So, I hear from so many women that there are some obvious signs that their hormones are involved in their anxiety. So sometimes these symptoms can be that you are feeling super anxious around your period, or your anxiety cycles over different times of the month, but it's very predictable. Maybe your symptoms are you felt more anxious after having a child, and so there's definitely some hormonal imbalances there. Maybe you have really obvious issues like you're not cycling regularly. Maybe you have fibroids or endometriosis. So there can be lots of symptoms or suggestions that your hormones are actually not in balance. And I'm going to talk this evening about that. So we talk about hormones in my 12-week program as well, called the Holistic Anxiety Fix. I've added in a section, and actually this evening I'm going to share with you one of the main resources with that. So make sure you stay tuned to the end of the video, where I'm going to tell you how you can get access to a way that you can start to balance your hormones naturally with your food. Now, there are a couple of things that I hear from a lot of women about hormones, and one of them is that they've gone to the doctor and had their hormones tested, and they have come back quote unquote fine. So there can be a variety of reasons why this might be the case for you. One of the reasons is that oftentimes doctors, when they do blood work, they don't necessarily check within specific parts of your cycle. And what that means is that the reference range for your hormones is going to be super duper wide, because obviously your hormones have a big range over your cycle. So if you are, trying to figure out what your hormones are and you're not testing it within a specific time or date range, then you're really not necessarily having a very accurate idea of whether your hormones are out of balance or not. That's why when I work in my membership with people, I run a Dutch hormone test, and it actually looks at your hormones metabolites actually between days 19 to days 21. So the reference range is pretty narrow, and we know exactly what we are looking at. So if you get that, your hormones are fine, please take that with a grain of salt and go with your instinct that something else may be going on, because something else likely is. This was the case for me. So I actually kind of sensed that my hormones were off. My PMS was off the charts. And when I went to the doctor, everything was fine. But then when I ran a more detailed test, like the Dutch test, I actually found that I had postmenopausal levels of estrogen. So obviously something was going on. So absolutely, hormone imbalance can be contributing to your anxiety. So when estrogen and progesterone are not in their normal ranges, sometimes the symptoms of this can be anxiety. So what I hear from a lot of women is, I actually need to balance my hormones and then my anxiety is going to go away. So I see women often wanting to go on bioidentical hormones. They come to me and ask me, can you do bioidentical hormones? And what's really interesting is that is not my first entry point into dealing with anxiety. So often what happens when it comes to hormones is that they are off because of underlying stresses. And the example that I like to give is, imagine that you are, back in the day in starvation mode. Your body is not going to go, oh my gosh, let's let her have a child. One of the first things you're going to do when you're in survival mode is your body is going to stop you from getting pregnant, because you cannot be in survival mode and and have a healthy child. And so when we fast forward to today, what actually happens is we're still adapted to that, right? So when our body is too stressed, one of the first things that goes are our hormones to prevent, our body from having a child when we're not going to be able to care for it. And so even if you're not trying to get pregnant and that's not a priority of yours, your hormones are one of the first things that goes off, because the body goes, let me see here. I can either put all the eggs in the hormone basket or all the eggs into let's help her deal with the stress basket. And so hormones are the first thing to go. So they are a sign to us when our hormones are off that we need to actually dig deeper. So some of the root causes of hormones can be internal hidden stressors like mold or gut infections can be a really big one. Both of those things throw hormones off. It can also be a result of diet. So if we're eating constant inflammatory foods, if we've gone too low fat, which I know some people do, we're not getting the building blocks of that. If we have poor absorption, then you're not able to absorb the nutrients that you need to build those hormones. Or if you're distressed all the time, I know we live in a very stressful era, then your body's also going to experience that as stress, and it's going to shift the body's resources into dealing with the stress instead of into hormones, right? So you might be sitting there listening and thinking, what do I do about this? So I really want to encourage you to go into the root causes of it. And this is what we do in the Holistic Anxiety Fix, which is the 12-week program where I really teach you how to, with lifestyle, and we do a bit of hair testing as well, how to address some of the root causes of why your hormones are off in the first place. But the other thing that we look at in the Holistic Anxiety Fix is we look at something called seed cycling. So seed cycling is basically allowing yourself to, it's providing yourself or nourishing yourself with the precursors to the hormones based on where you are in the month. So you'll eat certain seeds and nuts at certain times of the month, and that way you're getting those precursors necessary to build those hormones. So this is a really good way to promote estrogen as well as progesterone around the right times of the month. And what I'm actually doing this evening is I'm going to be giving away the seed cycling how-to instructions on exactly how you do it, what to take, and I'm sharing this with you directly from my program. So if you would like it, what you need to do is just type seed cycling below. And what I'm going to be doing is privately messaging you the seed cycling instructions on how to do it. So this is a really easy, natural way to start making sure that you have those building blocks for the hormones. So if you are not cycling, you can still do this. You need to use the moon cycle to do it. So you go from a new moon to a full moon on days 1 to 15, and a full moon to a new moon on days 15 to 30. And that is how you will do the seed cycle. So I'm super excited about this. So make sure you press seed cycle below, and I will be sharing that with you. Thanks very much, ladies, and have a lovely evening.